All right, shalom, shalom. We want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Hakodash. All right, the ones, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations and blessings to you brothers out there pushing the truth across the four corners of earth. All right, with me I got the brother.
Kind of shalom, brother Ragabar. We just decided to meet up today through the Spirit. We're gonna read just the first chapter of First Maccabees because a lot happened in it, and the really inspiration came was because I heard the other Apostle Tahar mention at one time that I think they was gonna try to do it for their Passover. I don't think they got to it, so we just thought we'd get into it. It's a lot of history, and it all ties into what the times we're coming in now, because when you study the nature of Esau, he always had that same mentality, which we're going to read, which is this new world order. Everybody come under one, just like on the back of your American dollar. I don't know the exact Greek phrase, but it stands for out of many one.
E pluribus unum. E pluribus unum.
And that's exactly what it means, out of many one. So it's the same spirit. So we'll just start from the top. And we got the names, about 3 names come up, and we got their information pulled up. We can just read a little bit of that. So we'll just go ahead, you can read it.
Okay. This is First Maccabees chapter 1 and 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
Okay, so that right there, this is how you know the Apocrypha adds up with actual circular history as well as the scriptures. You actually got significant names in the scriptures. Now, Darius ruled, if I recall correctly, after Cyrus, and they were king of the Persians and the Medes. When you read the book of Daniel chapter 2, the golden, not the golden statue, but the statue that was, head gold, chest was brass, I want to say.
Let me get that.
I got the image, let me see. Slacky. Okay, yeah, so it's the head of gold, the chest and the arms of silver, and the, looks like the, you know what? I got the actual image. Let me see if I can find it.
That's what Daniel 2 and...
Yep, Daniel 2.
And 32. I can pull that up.
Okay, kind of. Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah, the head of gold, breastplate of silver, then brass, iron, and clay, right? That's who ruled. You had the Babylonians, then you had the Medo-Persian Empire, which started with Cyrus, and then afterwards it was led by Darius, and then here comes Greece, and that's exactly what we was reading. So you keep reading on that. I just wanted to make that point real quick.
And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years and evils will multiply in the earth.
And that's a heavy point, but I wanted to add, so that Alexander that reigned 12 years and died, that was Alexander the Great. That was Alexander the Great. You got his biography, whatever. Pull that slide just to Go over that history. Alexander the Great.
Which
So, yep, he was the one that took down the Medo-Persians, right? Just what to say, Alexander the Great was an ancient Macedonian ruler and one of history's greatest military minds who, as a king of Macedonia and Persia, established the largest empire the ancient world had ever seen. By turns, charismatic and ruthless, brilliant and power-hungry, diplomatic and bloodthirsty, Alexander inspired such loyalty in his men, they followed him anywhere and if necessary, die in the process. So he was an important person, you know, which the apostles call him Alexander the Great. He's also known as that leopard, also in the book of Daniel. And it goes to show you can go back to the scripture. What it says, what happened when Esau got back into power? Evils began to multiply on the earth. See? And it was one of the Gadites in this video he made. He pretty much said that all was well. No, what he said was it was heavy. What he stated was, he said that people want to talk about World War III. He said the real World War was when Christopher Columbus came over here and his Europeans. That was the real war on the world, because ever since the earth is corrupt, the water is polluted. You know, you could drink out of every spring before Esau came over here, right? And you know, just for that, just because I said that, I'm gonna pull a quick precept on that. He said you could drink from every spring. Now you can't do it. You know, now you got to use filters and everything. That wasn't so in the ancient world. I mean, or before Esau came over here. This is Isaiah 24 verse 5, start at 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they, you see, it's the people. If the earth was just left to itself, it can't corrupt itself. It's the people that corrupt it. Because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. That's why that Gadai stated that was the true world war. When ultimately when the Edomites came, wherever they go to conquer, that's like a war on the world right there, right? So when they came into power, what happened is that evils began to multiply on the earth. It's the same thing, man. You trace every issue in this earth, man, it goes back to Esau. It always goes back to him. And if you go to the source, it all goes back to when this man came in rulership of power. That's why they got mad in the movie, game Mortal Kombat. Jax had the point of the game was if you finish, you know, the arcade, you have the power to go back in time. And his thing was, I'll go back in time and stop slavery. And these Edomites got all upset because they said, oh, that's advocating white genocide. But he didn't say he went back to kill Edomites. He said, I just went back to stop slavery. And in doing so, everybody was happy, right? But if you trace the source of all the issues, it goes back to you Edomites. That's why you feel that everybody's out to get you. Because when people talk about peace on earth, they talking about getting rid of you. Because you're the source. Evils began to multiply on the earth. It goes back to you Edomites.
I had Daniel 8, which it mentions, you know, basically Alexander the Great, and the apostle was bringing out how Alexander actually knew that he was in biblical prophecy. He was in our prophecy. Daniel 8 and 5, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, which that's talking about Alexander the Great. He's the notable horn, the notable leader of the Greeks. And he came to the ram that had two horns, the Persians, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
And that's why when these rulers like Alexander, when they took over kingdoms, they took over all the kingdoms, man. Mm-hmm. Just like, who was it, Arxerxes? He had, what, 120 provinces? I want to say. So they took over all the land, and the visions that Daniel saw, you could say he saw them literal, right? But when it was broken down to him, it was talking about powers and rulerships. Just like Nebuchadnezzar, he actually saw the golden statue, and he saw that it was great, and he saw that a stone came out and smoked the statue on his feet. He actually saw that, but they were symbolic of, you could pretty much say, people, right? And that stone represented Yahweh Shai. So Alexander the Great, he played a significant role in the scriptures because he did many things as well as wickedness, and he also established the setting for his offspring to come in and do even more wicked, which is going to go into.
Okay. It said, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
And I can't remember exactly those notable ones.
Oh, that's the, I got to pull it up, the Diadachi, the four generals.
Okay, their names.
Ptolemy, Seleucus, Antigone. Let's pull them up. Let's pull them up for I butcher. Cassandra, I know that's one of them.
Lucius.
Okay. Antigonus, Ptolemy, Cassandra, Lysimachus.
Okay.
Yep. And then here's us in Jerusalem, and then Ptolemy was down here in Egypt.
Mm-hmm. And the reason it all matters is because this is history, and we were a part of that history. Just like now, if you study about the Atlantic slave trade, it was about the rulership between, you could say the trade between two powers, Esau, and then you could say Ham, right? But Israel was a part of that. Israel was a part of that slave trade. So that's why the history is mentioned. One, because it's in a prophecy, and two, it tells you, because it really goes into detail how we became who we are. You know, we was talking about how certain things that was kept during the Maccabees was kept in the New Testament, right? One of them being the Feast of Dedications, and then the other one being when you go into the Book of Acts. Not to deter too much, but when you go in the Book of Acts, they talk about Saturn and Jupiter. Well, if you read the Book of Maccabees, it tell you that our people were forced to understand that. You see, so it all adds up. That's why the history plays an important role. Because when you go to learn about the Gentiles, you got to understand that before then they was forced to learn those things. That's why I was accustomed,
Can I just hit the point? John 10 and 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of the Dedication, and it was winter.
Click on the word, like we did before. In the Greek, that it was ekania.
Strong's G 1456. Ekania.
Dedication, consecration. In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days beginning in the 25th of in the middle of December, instituted by Judas Maccabees, 164 BC, that's what is chronologed around the time of the Maccabees, in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes.
See, so it's all there. It's in the New Testament. That's evident. That's why history is important, right? Yeah, we can continue reading on that.
Let's see. Jumping back to First Maccabees, verse
10.
Verse 10. It said, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, which we know Antiochus the king, the one who had been a hostage at Rome, that's Antiochus the third. So we know this one is Antiochus the fourth, who's waging war against Jerusalem, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
And that's the history of Jacob. Those are what you would call coons and whatnot. They decided to follow the powers that be, which is pretty much Esau at this point, and they said, let's go and join ourselves to them so that we can be, we can have a good status. Just like in this world today, you got judges, right? Judges, generals, whatever titles they have in the army, because our people says, let's strengthen ourselves in the sight of Pharaoh, which is what Isaiah 30. You can read that real quick. Bubble shot.
I see 30. Isaiah 30:1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt.
Exactly, same thing. What did Maccabees say?
He said, in those days, verse 11, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. And
that's them committing spiritual fornication, turning their back on the Lord, strengthening themselves in the sight of Pharaoh, in this case, in the sight of the Greeks. Mm-hmm. And when you read the book of Maccabees, you see you had a lot of, you could say, coons, right? Sellouts, if you want to say. Those are the words we would use today. Where they pretty much set themselves up to take down their own people. They wanted to take down their own people. They were pretty much like so-called black police officers, plotting and running running stakeouts and things like that to take down their own people, right? Because they're doing it because of Esau. It's the same thing. It's the same thing back then.
I think, and we don't want to get too far off topic, but I think if you actually trace back a lot of the leaders in the so-called black and even Latino community, a lot of them go back to these little Greek organizations, like they show you here. MLK, who else is on the list? I can't really see it. You got, what's his name? I forget his name, but it's a whole bunch of them. I forgot his name, man. Dick Gregory. That looks like Dick Gregory. I think that's what that is. Yeah, but you got a lot of our leaders who go back to these organizations, like here's another black Greek organization. There's Michael Jordan, there's Steve Harvey, Bill Cosby. Look at that. Look at all these so-called prominent, black people. Al Sharpton, Tom Joyner, all go back to these same organizations. So they went, they made a covenant with Greece so that they could be, in a certain position.
So they have status.
And then later on in Maccabees, they actually kick out the real high priest of Israel and put their own high priest up. God, there's some more. But Jesse Jackson, look at that. And what's his name? Morgan Freeman.
Who's at the top? That Morris Chestnut, that's the name?
That is more, yep. Damn, Scott, I know Scottie Pippen, damn.
So it's natural for our people to do so because there's status and rewards, Yep. That's why they look down on Israel now, because they look at us as like bums. So it was natural for our people to do that. See? Even back then, it's nothing new. It's nothing new, all right?
Damn, look at that. Bill Russell, I didn't know, Cedric the Entertainer, look at that. So you gotta have that connection to be able to get in those positions. Mm-hmm. That's what they did. It said, so this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. It said, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
And that's how they made themselves uncircumcised. Can you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7? That's how they made themselves uncircumcised, by simply going against the Lord, turning their back on the custom. Scroll down, I think it's like towards the last verses. Alright, scroll up a little bit. It's like, okay, verse 19.
1 Corinthians 7:19, circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments of the Most High.
That's why the real circumcision, you got a physical and you got a spiritual circumcision. The physical refers to you, on the 8th day as a newborn son. The spiritual circumcision is referring to taking away the foreskin of your heart, right? You put off the old man, you put off the ways of the customs of the heathen. So you're an Israelite. But what did they do? They went and made themselves uncircumcised by simply turning their back on the Lord. Because the scriptures tell you circumcision, uncircumcision is nothing but keeping the commandments of the Heavenly Father. So how do you commit fornication? How do you make yourself uncircumcised? By joining yourself into the other heathen.
And it said, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, which we know that as Ptolemy the VI. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
And that was one of the things that these other nations did, especially Nebuchadnezzar. When they took us over, they took all our valuables. They still got our valuables. And the scripture says that they're gonna bring them all back. So, just like Antiochus did, not Antiochus, just like Nebuchadnezzar did, and we got it back. The Lord is going to have these nations do the same thing, because that's what they did, believe it or not. When they came over here and conquered, why do you think Puerto Rico is called Puerto Ricans? It's a port of riches, because they had a lot of riches. And what do you think that is? A lot of those riches consist of gold and silver and precious valuables and vessels. Where do you think they got those? They got those stored up, man. Hey, just like Fort Knox, you can't even go nowhere near Fort Knox. Imagine what they got of ours. And we're going to get it all back. It's no different. Let me see. I think it was a quick precept I wanted.
You put how it goes.
No, you know what? No, I don't think I can find it. So I don't think I can find it. Keep going.
It said he took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit.
And that's how Esau operates. That's what you people don't seem to get. He always speaks with deceit, right? Become peaceable, so then you'll let your guard down, and then that's when they jump on you. This is you getting to know your enemy. See, this is why when you read the history, you'll see that this man is still the same man. What's that, Sirach 12? Sirach 12 and 10, the rest.
God. Like we were talking about the census thing, how they just so happen to send out these census forms out after all the shit that's been going on.
Yeah. How convenient, right?
Right.
And then they'll tell you, help us count how many, so we can do all this.
God.
Jake don't even know, man. They got something else planned.
You at the start of verse 10.
Yeah.
God. And it's Sirach 12 and 10. Yep, never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take heed, and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away.
And you see, what did we just read? What did he say? He spake peaceable words to them, but it was all deceit. See, when you know your enemy, you don't be deceived. You wouldn't say, I see what they trying to do. Mm-hmm. And just like now, you got a lot of people bugging out because you got a lot of people talking about this coronavirus, talking about upcoming vaccination. Whatever laws they pass is going to take away your freedom. They're stealing people. They're taking money from you. You got a lot of people losing their money, a lot of people losing their jobs, and you're just sitting there broke while they're stole your money, and they're telling you, they're making a big deal out of this virus, or they're blowing it out of proportion to get you, and they're censoring people, right? And they'll tell you, look, we got it under control, don't worry. But a lot of people are shaking because there's so many people saying the same thing. They're like, okay, is this a conspiracy or what? Because it all seems so true. You got so many things coming at you that some people are just now knowing, like, I can't trust the government, right? So just like now, you got all these people questioning them. Most of them ain't fooled. Hey, we ain't fooled, because we know how this enemy operates. You got to understand everything he can use against you. And if his goal is to establish a new world order, he's slowly taking away your freedom. All your amendments, they're all being taken away. See, but when you know him, what the scripture say, and you shall know that his rust have not all been together wiped away. You'll still know that that's that same snake. You got to know your history, man. How did they get this land? By deceit. How did they get you? By deceit, by forceful servitude. Even to this day, they got you off with deceit. They still make you think your vote matters. You got a chance to run office. You can make a change, but they're always right there to make sure that you can only get so far. That's why our people decide to sell out or join hands with the heathen, like we was just looking at those Greek Black Empire. That's why they do that, because they don't want to be oppressed. So they say, well, I'll join hands with Esau so that I can live a comfortable lifestyle. Because Esau is that gatekeeper, man.
It says, set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place.
And that's exactly what happened. You can stop there.
And that always happens. Every time Esau comes with the intersectionality and join this program, and we can all be together, and then all of a sudden, so-called Latino, Native American Black people, we just so happen to end up getting the short stick in the deal, and Esau ends up finding a way to win every single time. To this day, still the same. I remember I was in when I was in the world and I was in college, and you had Edomites coming into the so-called student diversity office, and I was asking like, what are you here for? My great grandmother's Native American. I'm looking at the fuck out of here. Now he gets, you know, a huge scholarship because so-called Native American woman, which, you know, it's so many $5 Indians out here. Yeah, that's just this bullshit, man. And it's about your father's line anyway. So even if he did have a Native American woman, you know, on his mother's side, it wouldn't have mattered. Hell, even your father's side, it wouldn't have mattered. It's about men.
That's right.
Let's see, going to verse 30, and spake peaceable words unto them, and all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel.
When as soon as you give him your trust, he takes it away. He destroys you. That's the snake, man. That's the serpent. We keep going.
And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And going back to this one, that's always what they do. It talks about that in the Willie Lynch letter, how they, you know, they disrupt your household. They take your woman, they rape her, they deal with her. All right, they take your son, they indoctrinate him, they beat the shit out of him. They make the child, if he's a boy, they make him effeminate. If it's a girl, you know, they turn her out. That's Esau's MO. That's why they push homosexuality so hard amongst Latino, Native American, and Black people.
Just like Eve in the garden. How did the serpent get the man to go off? By using a woman. Using a woman to destroy the man. So-called sexually liberating them. Giving them these benefits of being a single mother, which encourages them to break up the household, which causes the children to grow up without a father. That all destroys the house. The source is Esau. He's the source. See?
As I say, the man that's born of a woman is of
a few days full of trouble.
Full of trouble. It said, then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare.
Oh, right now, the land of Israel isn't being inhabited by its true inhabitants, because the Lord got to put us there. Can you go to Zechariah chapter, I want to say it's chapter 8. I'm trying to see. Let me double check. Because we have to be placed there. You wanna know why? Because we were pushed out. And
which one? Behold, I will save my people from the east country and from the west country.
no, it's something else. You know what? While I'm looking for that, can you get 2nd Ezra chapter 2? At the top. What's 2nd Ezra? Where's the point? The whole chapter's good. I want to get to the point. Go back to the top of the show. me see real quick. Because he goes into detail of maybe it's chapter 1. Let me see. Oh, yeah, it's chapter 1, Slack. Chapter 1.
Which one? Go thy way and show my people their sinful deeds.
Is to go to the point. Oh, verse 33.
Second Ezra 1 and 33. Thus saith the Almighty Lord, your house is desolate, I will cast you out as the wind doth stubble. And your children shall not be fruitful, for they have despised my commandment and done the thing that is evil before me. Your houses will I give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me, yet shall believe me, to whom I have showed no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them.
That's right, and that was pretty much like a punishment for the nation of Israel. He said he was going to push us out, you see, and that's exactly what he did, because he said that this is an exact scripture where he pretty much says like, he was like, your land is swallowed up. What am I to do to you? What am I to do for you? Everybody, your land isn't inhabited by your own people. In so many words, you're scattered, you're destroyed. So that's the prophecy that our people wouldn't be in their land at the time. And I found the scripture. It's Zechariah chapter. I know it's Zechariah. Okay, chapter
3.
No, it's like it looks the same. Oh, chapter 12, verse 6. That's what it is.
Okay. It's Zechariah 12 and 6. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like a hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem.
That's how you know Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. Because it said Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place. Who's that talking about? The people, even in Jerusalem. You see, because right now we're not in our land. So that's why, just like with the Maccabees, what did Epiphanies do? He took the land of David and made a strong tower there and put the most wicked in there. You see, that was part of the curses, that we would look upon our own land, cast out and in slavery under the other nations, and just look and weep over our own land, because that was our land. See.
Said verse 33, then built they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and the evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
You see, there it goes. That's talking about the strangers. That's how people became that's how people became Gentiles. If you can, real quick, what is it? Jeremiah 2 and 19, I want to say. How did I become a degenerate plant? Oh, verse 21.
Okay. This is Jeremiah 2:21. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly of right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?
So you see, the Lord planted a right seed, but then we became a degenerate vine. That goes back to are people making themselves uncircumcised. Sewing on force, they pretty much sewed back on their spiritual, they sewed their foreskin back on spiritual. They became a degenerate plant. The Most High said, I didn't plant this plant. Well, who are you? You know, I gave you laws, statutes, and commandments, and you choosing to follow after your many lovers. You're like a degenerate to me, a stranger. And then we read how they took the women and the children captive. So when the children were born, what did they teach them? They taught them the Greek way. That's how our people became degenerates and strangers, and we were looked at differently, which ultimately over time progressed. You had a section of people who looked at themselves above another people, like the Jews that knew they were Jews versus the defiled, you could say Israelite foreigners, and they were looked at differently. They're like, oh man, that guy's he's a heathen spiritually, and they were called Gentiles. They're like, oh, you're a Gentile, right? Because those Israelites, they knew inwardly, they was like, yeah, I know I'm an Israelite, but I'm a Greek. You know, I follow the Greek customs. I shave my beard. You know, I wear their clothing. I'm a Roman. You know, so I call myself Roman. I'm an empire, such and such. That's why they had to come back to teach. They had to be taught. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the MVP, current MVP, the Greek freak, he was born in Greece. His parents are Nigerian, but he was born in Greece, so he could speak Greek.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, if I got it correctly, Paul was born in Jerusalem and raised in Rome, and he could speak Greek. He could speak Hebrew.
Okay.
You know. Let me see.
Upwork has the world's largest network of proven independent professionals. It's like having a go-to graphic designer right here. Well, it is a battle of the Greeks tonight. Safe to say you're very proud of your heritage.
I don't think he's done this with any of the local Milwaukee stations before. I'm sure he's done interviews with, Greek media. The coolest thing for me, Susan, was people came. All Greek to you guys, right?
Yeah, it was.
You see, but he's an Israelite.
Okay.
Hey, if you can, you get Sirach chapter 10, verse 19. That's why history is important. It's just another example.
Sirach 10 and 19. They that fear the Lord are a sure seed, and they that love him in an honorable plant.
So you see, those that fear the Lord, those that know they're Israelites, it says what? You're an honorable plant, right?
They that regard not the law,
AKA uncircumcised, being a Gentile, a spiritual Gentile,
or a dishonorable seed.
a dishonorable seed. See?
That they that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed.
You see, so they're not even really like Israelites spiritually, you know. That's why it says, "He that fear the Lord are a sure seed, an honorable plant." Many times throughout the scriptures, that the Lord referred to us as planted seeds, and He also referred to us as a degenerate seed. He also calls us Gentiles. He calls us heathens. So when you go into the New Testament, this is why the history is important. You'll see why Paul and Peter and them had so much trouble debating with the Israelites in Athens, debating with the Israelites who think that they were, Ethiopians, who thought that they were Greeks. They had to go and teach them, like Paul had to go and teach them, like, look, y'all are very superstitious. Y'all got all kind of Greek. So, and to tell you that the people of that land, their hobby every day was just to hear something new.
Oh, yeah.
So they weren't rooted. They weren't rooted. They were just like, I like that doctrine. I like that doctrine. Oh, you talking about resurrection? Oh, let me hear that. That's something new. I ain't never heard that before. They were so gone, you see, and that's what happens. That's why Esau kept the Bible from us in slavery, right? Gave us Christianity, and you see what happened today. Now our people got to fight to shake off that demon, just like we was once Christians, But that's all.
verse 39. It said, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbath into reproach, Salakia, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
You see, all should be one people. That goes back to the New World Order. That is why America is Rome all over again. You gotta understand. Esau is infatuated with all the kingdoms in the ancient world. This is Greek. I'm sorry. This is Egypt. See, this is Babylon. This is Rome. They got all kind of, images and symbols and hand signs and whatnot because they're infatuated with all the kingdoms that was before us that was destroyed. That's why they got sodomy over here. That's why they got stadiums over here. That's why they got obelisks over here.
Yep.
And they put them up as monuments, like the Washington Monument, which is an obelisk. It's supposed to. A monument is something you remember. What do you remember? It's remember Rome.
Yep.
And what did they all desire? One people. A whole kingdom should be under one person. New World Order. Out of many, one. Right? The New World Order. Everybody's under one law, one system, which leads to the microchip. It's the same spirit, man.
It said, moreover, Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agree according to the commandment of the king. Yet many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
So this is what he made us do. Isn't that the same when Daniel was when he created a statue and he said that everybody should be forced to bow to that? In fact, what is that? Daniel. What was that? Daniel. Chapter 5.
Where Nebuchadnezzar wants everybody.
Yeah, was it? Oh yeah, I think it's chapter 6. Because when you read verse 5, you can start at verse 5. You see Daniel, just like Joseph, just like Jeremiah, just like Daniel and his companions, they were given special authority in the land. Is Daniel chapter 6, it's like verse 5. They were given special authority in the land of the heathen. Just like Esther was in a high position. Mordecai eventually got into a high position too. But they still feared the Lord. You see, they were raised up, they had status, they were given money, riches, but they still feared the Lord. And these heathen, they envied Daniel. They was like, man, we don't want no Jew up there. So they try to conspire a way to get Daniel caught up, right? And they knew that Daniel was a Jew, and they knew that he feared the Lord, and they knew that he wasn't going to bow to another nation, so they tried to force his hand. See, you can start at 5.
God. Then said these men, if I'm start at verse 4, Daniel 6 and 4, then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law.
So you see, that's how they tried to set up Daniel. They said we got to get him to go off. That's exactly what Epiphanes is doing. Why did he send that letter? He was like, look, y'all gonna defame, y'all gonna profane y'all Sabbaths. I know y'all like to keep it on the moons. Y'all gonna profane the Sabbaths. Y'all gonna eat pork. Y'all not gonna circumcise, and if I catch y'all doing any of that, there's a punishment. So they knew our laws, they knew our custom, they knew who we feared, and they used it against us.
Okay.
Wait, you can keep reading that.
Okay, it said, verse 6, then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any power or man for 30 days, save O thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which alter it not.
So they forced him or encouraged him to write a law saying that you couldn't pay tribute to any power pretty much for a whole 30 days. We jump to 13.
Then answered they and said before the king that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day.
You see, that's what they did. That's how they used to set up Daniel. And there was another situation where they when the horn sound, you got to bow to the image, and then they didn't bow, right? But what happened when they saw that? They pointed the finger. He ain't bowing. Get him out of here. So when the other nations, they knew that to get us like killed or whatever, what they wanted to do, they want us to profane our history. They wanted us to become Gentiles. They want us to be uncircumcised. And the way they knew that our people would be uncircumcised if we forsake the law of the Heavenly Father. But since we were under their rulership, they had the power to bring out decrees. And they pretty much said, if I catch y'all keeping the law and you refuse to be a Gentile, a heathen, spiritually, you're going to be put to death. And a lot of our people died. And that's why over time, children being brought forth, what do you think the parents are teaching them? Son, you're going to have to learn the way of the Greeks so you can live. And then, of course, they took that on as themselves. They got elevated, right? The scripture's even going to talk about our people tried to run in secret just to keep us happy, just to keep the law. And they was on us. They on us, and they pretty much beat our heritage out of us. It was a normal thing, man. This is what these Edomites did to us. You can go back to the...
This is First Maccabees 1, and 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
Yeah, because he said all should be one, meaning you're going to follow me. That's what the New World Order is, man. Forsake your Lord, you're my servant. No?
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh.
Which is an abomination. But why did they do that? Because they knew it was an abomination. And unclean beasts. You see? This man ain't righteous, man. And a lot of you Israelites expecting this man to just have a complete change of heart. You waiting on that day. This man is not righteous, man.
It said that they also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
You see, that's why they did that to us. That's why they beat our heritage out of us in slavery. That's why we were forbidden to learn how to read in slavery, which that's cruel. Hey, when we had servants, we ain't never forbade them how to read.
Right.
These people beat us for learning how to read. Why? Because they knew that knowledge comes power, and if we became knowledgeable or had any type of intellect, eventually they would be overthrown. They don't want a smart Negro. That's why when you guys are out there on the streets with your pants sagging, bumping that garbage, they saying, look, they still think you're a nuisance, but I'd rather you be doing that versus you being on the streets and the highways and byways in order, teaching the word, teaching your people who they are. You see? That's why you're not a problem to the wicked elite unless you're talking some truth. You could be out there talking about being gay and homosexuals and blind weed. Hell, they'll elevate you. But you get on the news and you say, you know what, we're the real Jews. They're going to shut you down. So this is crafty counsel.
God. It said, verse 50, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
You see, they put overseers over there, like, we're going to make sure that these people are becoming heathens. We're going to make sure that these Israelites, them Jews, that they are sacrificing swine's flesh, and that they aren't circumcising their children. We're going to make sure that they follow the heathen way, which is going to go into our people tried to flee, right? And that goes into the whole, the Feast of Dedication. You still got that?
Yeah.
Pull that back up, because what do you think eventually happened? The dedication, the Feast of Dedication, what we just read, is us being free from the burden of, epiphanies and keeping our laws again. So we made it a feast day. That's what the Passover is all about, is us being redeemed. So you Israelites, you always want to follow these customs of the world. Don't you know you got your own customs you can keep? What does that say?
In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days beginning. It's in one of our months.
Yep. And I'll say that in the Apocrypha, they really give. I don't think they name all 12 months, but they name like 8 of them. You see?
Instituted by Judas Maccabees in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Exactly, because eventually we went to war. We was able to, the Lord, we prospered, and we made a feast of dedication that we are coming back to who we are again. That's why when our people came out of the land of captivity, we kept the Passover. We rejoiced in the Passover that the Lord delivered us, and we can come back to who we are again. That's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now. We're putting on our garments again. It's talking spiritually, because first we was unclean. We didn't have our fringes on. Can you get Baruch chapter 5, verse 1, Bible shot really quick? And now we're coming back to who we are. Hey, that's why it's good to know the history, man. And it's in the book,
This is Baruch 5:1. Put off, O Jerusalem, the garment of thy mourning and affliction, and put on the comeliness of the glory that cometh from the Most High forever. Cast about thee a double garment of the righteousness which cometh from the Most High, and set a diadem on thy head of the glory of the everlasting.
So that's talking about spiritual. Put your garments back on. Put your fringes back on. It's always up here first, you see? And then the physical will manifest itself eventually. That's why, when you cleanse yourself, especially, that's why scripture talk about being born again and, the milk. Because the first thing somebody might want to do, they'll say, okay, I'm an Israelite, I want the garments, I want all this, which is cool and all, but it's best to start from the milk, because not everybody is so quick to jump on it. They more just, okay, what do I need to know, right? And then they'll get to the point where they'll get the garment, where they'll keep, the holy days, right? That's you putting on your garment, right, and wearing that diadem.
It said, with verse 52. Yep, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could file for succor. Flee.
Yeah, because our people wanted to keep the law. Our people didn't want to, come on, man, sacrifice swine's flesh. That's an abomination to the Lord, man. They telling you can't circumcise your child. They did that in secret, man. Mm-hmm. They when they had the children, they made sure nobody knew about it, and they ran in the secret part just to keep the Sabbath, just not to eat pork, right? That's what our people resorted to. That's how you know we was always on the run when we went off, because when these other nations overtook us, and that right there tells you that those who committed sin was granted to live, and those who kept the law was put to death. And this is pretty much the same right now. This is what we coming into, because I mentioned at the beginning, Esau is about to come down with this martial law and this microchip. And it's going to get to the point where your faith is going to be tested. Either you bow down, or you may get put in a concentration camp, or even worse, you may be put to death. They may use your family as a torture because that's part of his routine as well. You can read that. Was it 2 Maccabees 7 or chapter 8? You can read that about the 7 holy children and the mother torture one another to get one of them to bow down, but neither one of them did. This is the same. That's why we say you got to notice the devil. You got to notice your enemy. And all of this was written, which it tells you, what is that? Romans 15. Is it Romans 15? Verse 5, I want to say.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime. Yep, Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
Exactly. And then the second Sirach chapter 2 says, look at the men of old, were any of them forsaken that called on the name of the Lord? And the scriptures also tell you, Sirach 11, that it is easy for the Lord to reward a man in the day of his death. So if you happen to die for this truth, guess what? You're going to be rewarded. But that's where the faith comes in. And that's why you got to look at the scriptures and the men before you to build up that faith. You know? Just like, let me see. What is that? I think it'd be good to bring out. Oh, okay. Can you get 2 Maccabees chapter 14? This point I want. Verse. Slack it. But pretty much. No, wait, you know what? Oh, no, wait, that's not it. I don't think that's it. I think it's. Damn. It's pretty much the man that he was an elderly man. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, it's chapter 6. Or you can read verse 24.
It's 2 Maccabees 6:24. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, and he's 90 years old, were now going to a strange religion.
Because Eleazar was a very noble man. And even the I don't know what nation it was exactly, I have to read it, but they loved this man so much, they was pretty much saying, like, look, first of all, I heard you got to defy yourself, eat this pork. And he's like, I'm not eating that pork or whatever. And they was like, okay, well, look, we like you, all right? Just act like you did, act like you did. Well, how about this? We'll give you the food you like to eat. You eat this and pretend like you ate swine just so that we don't have to kill you, because they liked him. And let's see what he said.
Mm-hmm. And so they, through mine hypocrisy, and desire to live a little time and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable. Yeah. For the present time I should not be delivered from the punishment of men.
Oh, you should be delivered.
Oh, Shalaki. For the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead.
Okay.
Wherefore now manfully change this life, I will show myself such an one as mine age requireth, and leave a notable example to such as be young, to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment.
You see, because he said that, just read the whole thing. It's beautiful.
They that led him, changing the good, will they bear him a little before into hatred.
Because they got mad. They said, you see, we did like you, but now you starting to piss us off.
Mm-hmm.
And they tortured him.
It said, but when he was ready to die with stripes.
Read that.
Okay.
Verse 29 again.
God. They that led him, changing the good will they bear him a little before into hatred, because the foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought from a desperate mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that hath the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten.
Because he could have got out of that. Don't you see? He could have agreed to eat his regular meals and pretend like to the congregation that he sinned, that he ate the pork to prolong his own life. But he said, prolong my life? Just so, he said, and prolong my life and teach the generation after me to do evil, to stain my name just to prolong my life a little longer. He said, though I may escape in the flesh, I can't escape the Heavenly Father, right?
He said, I now endure sore pains in body by being beat, but in soul am well content to suffer these things because I fear him.
You see, this is why, as we just read, the things that was written aforetime before our learning, you're supposed to read these words and be filled up in the spirit to say, you know what? Men before me have done the same thing, and you know what? They had that faith, and they ultimately they're going to see the kingdom of heaven. That's why Esau is carnal. That's why he feels he can torture you and threaten you with your life, because that's his thing. He'll danger your life in your face. Don't you want to live, nigga? Don't you want to live?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you fear me? I have the power over you, because he wants to be God so much. But the spirit always triumphs over the flesh. The spirit will look at this man in the face and say, look, do what you got to do. I fear someone higher and above you. You know? That's something Esau can't take from us. He never could take it from us. So his best strength was to keep it from us. That's why he was known as Lucifer, the light bearer. He's the holder of life. He'll take the knowledge and take your history, because that's all he can never take our courage to our spirit. Egypt, the more they afflicted us, the more we grew. So they did their best to try to attack our spirit. But our people, we always had this spirit to look up. Always. Right? What was the last verse?
And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation.
Because he could have prolonged his life, but he chose rather to die than to stain his name and teach the young offspring to do evil. You see, he could have. They didn't want to kill him. You know, they said, look, just pretend like you ate it. Eat this plate so we can just say you did. That way, you like, who you think I am? And he said, and then teach the people behind me to do evil? Hell with that, I'd rather die. And they got pissed off. See?
Let's see, back to First Maccabees, verse 53. It said, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor, which succor means help, assistance. Now the 15th day of the month Casle, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
You see, they was putting them on. They was putting it like a church on the block. They was putting up altars of heathens. You see, That's how they slowly changed our people into Gentiles.
And burnt incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets.
So they had to openly, they were openly offering, bowing down to the heathen guys, making themselves abominable.
And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire.
So all the scrolls, what did they do? They burnt them. You see how these other nations they forced us to become other Gentiles? Why you think Yahushua had to come? He had to come and reteach our people. Just like now, we were Gentiles, and now now the Lord blessed us with the Holy Spirit, so now we're reteaching who we are. We're relearning who we are. You have to learn the ancient ways. You see?
And that's what the devil does when he gets our stuff, man. They burn and destroy our shit and try to erase us from history. They change the scriptures talk about, they change the faces of the judges. They change everything we do, man. They change it or they destroy it. That's why it's so much stuff when we get to the kingdom that we're going to see, man. We're going to be like, whoa.
And we're going to get mad because we're going to be like, man, this is ours.
God.
And you took it.
God. It said, and wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
If you had some scrolls and secretly, they'll search your house, man. They'll lift up everything, look up under the wood. Up, what's this? Prophet Isaiah, kill this person, Yep.
Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month to as many as were found in the cities.
So how many Israelites they killed every month? Hundreds. Because plenty of our people will say, which is going to tell you, I don't care. I'll die for this truth. I'm not defiling myself. I'm going to keep my scriptures, right? Every month.
Now the 5 and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice unto the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks.
That's wicked.
Oh, man.
That's wicked, man. They killed the mother and the infants.
Yeah.
Oh, the infant has been circumcised. He's considered holy. Hang him.
They say, cursed is he that hangeth from a tree.
Yeah.
And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them.
So all the parents, everybody in the household got slew for keeping the law. And what do you think happens after so many years of being subjugated to that? You become a Gentile, man. You're born in that lifestyle. You don't know any better. You're a heathen. And you hold those customs. It's the same thing today. Muslim, Islam, Christianity, right? And everything else.
Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed with themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
So they said, I'm not defiling myself, man. And this is the time we're coming into with this chip. He coming with the vaccinations and he coming in with this chip. We don't know how soon on the vaccinations or the chip, but we know he's definitely pushing it, man. And that chip is gonna be the same as what they're doing here. It's the same as like altering swine's flesh upon the altar, that you bowing down, you saying, I accept you as my power because you have the power of life or death over me. You have the power to say, I will be put to death or I'm going to starve, lest I conform. Same thing, man. But the only difference is now we're going to be delivered. The Lord said that when you pretty much tell this devil no and say you don't have no guarantee of food, water, shelter, or safety, that faith is going to provide you those things.
Verse 63, wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there was a very great wrath upon Israel.
Yep. So you see that one chapter is heavy, man. And all those men that died, guarantee you they're all back here today doing this work.
Yep.
You see? And that's what this devil's coming, man, to do the exact same thing. He's gonna do the exact same thing with this martial law. They're gonna be going door to door. You don't know what they're gonna be throwing people in concentration camps. They're gonna say, look, you gotta have to get this shit or else. It's gonna be the same thing, man. How they rifled our houses, they about to bring all that back, man.
I had Jake tell me, I said, you gonna take this chip? Because he kind of knew about it. He said, well, shit, you could take it and just pull it out. I said, nah, man.
No, that's not how it's gonna work.
Nah, man.
Because first of all, what are you taking it for? If you're taking it to go buy food, you're gonna need that again to go buy food. So how you gonna take it out? You know? Because if you go back to the store next time and say, heard you scan it, I took it out, they're gonna say, oh, this motherfucker's a rebellion, lock him up. It's supposed to be in you, man. They want it in you because they want to be able to track you. Because you could just leave it at home and then go out. If they find out, that's your ass, man. Mm-hmm. So best believe they're going to threaten you and say, anybody who removes this chip, you have become an enemy of the state. You know what I'm saying? So hey, this first chapter is heavy. It's history. It shows you that our enemy is still the enemy, that Russ is still on them, that everybody become one, the New World Order, that's coming back. It was always in their spirit. The persecution of the Israelites, the Lord said we're going to go through that again, which is prophesied as Jacob's trouble. Our faith is going to be tested. But this time the Lord says it's going to be worse than anything before, man. And that's the message. So that's why this chapter is good, you know. But the whole book of Maccabees is history, it's faith building, right? I just wanted to go over the first chapter because I remember Apostle Tahar mentioned it. But that's pretty much it, man.
Powerful.
Do you have any last?
Now, shit, I was just gonna say, man, the word Maccabee means hammer. You know, they were a hammer for the Most High. All right, and Lord willing, we be in the same spirit as these men when this shit hits the fan, you know, for us. And that's what the elect is gonna, you know, do.
And even in the Maccabees, he was fighting his own people too, so there's nothing new when it comes to like these other Israelite groups. But hey, with that, we hope it was edifying. We're going to give all praises to Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua, by Shem Dash, double honors to our apostles, elders of Great Millstone, and till next time, we say Shalom.
Shalom.